Here at Be Freaking Awesome, we believe that life is too short to be anything less than extraordinary. Join us as we explore what it means to live authentically, grow continuously, and have a blast while doing it. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Be Freaking Awesome. I'm one of your hosts, Sammy Kinnison, here with Angela Belford, and today we are joined by a dear friend and special guest, Abby Clapper. Abby, we met her at PodFest back in January of 25 and have just been able to stay in contact and kind of follow each other's podcasting journeys. And today, Angela is actually going to sort of tee us up for a conversation just about some of Abby's expertise. But before I let Angela tee up what we're going to talk about, Abby, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what your podcast is, and where you are in the world.
Awesome. Well, I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me. My podcast is Talk Your Abs Off. I am a personal trainer. I've been doing personal training for about 8 years, among some other things. And I'm a certified exercise physiologist through the American College of Sports Medicine. I teach group exercise classes, and I also teach yoga. So my podcast, Talk Your Abs Off, is based around helping everyone find 1 or 2 actionable items that you can do for a lifetime in your wellness routine, whether that's finding good running shoes or eating for your gut health, things like that. Just little things that are simple enough for you to change, but that will last a lifetime.
I love that. Thanks so much for sharing. And where are you at in the world?
I'm in Florida, Clearwater, Florida.
Love it. Angela, I know you have some thoughts about what you want us to talk about today and dive into. Do you want to unpack those for us?
Sure, I do. Number one, some of our highest ranked episodes are around the idea of making friends as adults that regularly shows up in our top 10. And we used a lot of strategy. We talked about a lot of strategies on that podcast about how you can make friends. One of them being like hang out or volunteer somewhere. Like if you go to the gym at the regular time, you can start to make friends. And what I would also say that we left off the list is going to conferences related to the things that you are interested in, because the Podfest, I don't know how we'll ever measure the joy of pulling together kind of a little posse of people, our peeps. And it was just very cool and organic how a couple of people, it was like, oh, I like your outfit. And suddenly we're best friends. It felt like a little bit like kindergarten in that way.
It did.
We're in the same class. Oh, you have your cute shirt on. Oh, we gotta sit by each other just because there's just like 500 or 600 people. And so if you get somebody that you've already connected with, and then you connected with them, and then and so there's like 7 of us, and we end up at dinner a couple of times. Anyway, it was so enriching, and we started a group chat, and I have a Slack channel, and I just love that. And so if people are sitting there, and I know loneliness is an epidemic, not at all what this podcast is about, but bonus features is that you can also just being okay with, like, it wasn't hard for me to compliment somebody because they were wearing purple, and then, well, what's your podcast about? And everybody there, we all had a podcast. Anyway, so just don't underestimate that. So, but when we got to hang out with Abby, I really appreciate that she wants to make exercise and fitness more accessible to everybody. And she and I have talked a lot about the idea that I don't love strength training. I've at least upgraded. See, Abby, I used to call it weightlifting, and now like I'm getting there. I'm working out. I have at least bought the apparatus for my house that I'm going to try to start doing, like practicing on myself, which I thought was what we're going to talk about. But in fact, also at another cool conference that Sam and I went to on neurodivergence, we really, Abby's like, I wish you guys would have told me about this conference because I really am going deep in fitness for people that are neurodivergent. So I love that you were trying to make fitness more accessible. And from my perspective, it is one of the areas of the wheel of life that to be freaking awesome, we got to contribute to our health. So much so, bonus, I've actually launched a new podcast called Dare to Age Well Now, where I am talking a lot about this idea that without our health, none of the rest of this crap matters. So Abby, why are you interested in fitness for neurodivergent type folks?
Yeah, well, I actually kind of fell into this niche of mine, which I'm friends with a lot of other female entrepreneurs, and apparently this is normal to kind of fall into it accidentally. But
Mhm.
when I came out of the corporate world, managing fitness centers for corporations, I one of my clients was neurodivergent and was very open about her neurodivergence and also about her chronic conditions. And the more we talked, the more she kept working with me, and then she started bringing her neurodivergent friends in to work with me as well. And so I was like, oh, I kind of like this. I was talking to Sammy about it, and it feels like, I like the challenge of every neurodivergent person or everyone with a chronic condition needs something different. Fitness is not cookie cutter for anyone. I'm a big proponent of that. Whether you're neurodivergent or neurotypical or have chronic conditions or do not, everyone needs something different and specific. But I really enjoy helping people find what's going to work well for them in their schedule, with their bodies, what they need in that moment if they still want to do something, and not just telling them to push through it or to tell them to give up, because that's what a lot of trainers will do is they'll say, "Oh, well, if you can't do it, then there's nothing else that you can do." When in reality, there's a lot that people can still do. So that's where this all really kind of stemmed from.
I feel like even that philosophy, there's just a lot of things that you can get stuck in the trap of if I can't do it perfect, if I can't do it 100%, then what's the point of trying?
Mhm.
The point of trying is that if it's worth doing at all, it's worth doing poorly. It is worth doing one push up if rather than not doing 20 push-ups because then you did
Exactly.
zero push-ups. And I'm not saying like it has to be a push-up or whatever, but I don't know. There's different things that it is worth doing poorly. It's worth starting small. It's worth doing teeny little differences and then see what happens. See what happens when you invest in that and when you go from there.
I feel like I jumped ahead and said we went to a conference for neurodivergence, and I did not make sure. Those of you that are longtime listeners, I'm sure know, and we had the ADH is a superpower episodes. But for people that don't know, neurodivergent simply means that you are along the spectrum of at one end is, I guess, neurotypical, and at the other end would be more autistic. And there is a huge range, and there are lots of components to that. And I think at some point we will figure out that there ain't no such thing as neurotypical, because even people that air quotes are neurotypical don't have a diagnosis like ADHD or any official diagnosis. They still are like, ooh, I can't touch that thing. Like we have some things about OCD, and we have some things about like sensitivity to noise. And I think there are just different components. So anyway, and you don't have to have been diagnosed with ADHD either. You can have notice these tendencies. So anyway, I love the accessibility and the just grace and compassion that you use to approach this.
Thank you.
Those of us that have been on a journey of being neurodivergent in this little industrial society that we all live in struggle a lot with all or nothing thinking. We struggle a lot with I can't do it perfect. I can't do it, and I shouldn't even do it. You see that a lot in your clients.
Yeah, 100%. And I actually used to work as a health coach, and all or nothing thinking was something that we focused on quite a lot. And I noticed, and I tell my husband all the time, like I am a very all or nothing thinking person. So, there's a reason why like I have been, sober for the past year and a half. Like that for me was all or nothing. However, when it comes to eating sweets, like eating sugar, I love sugar, but I can't let that be all or nothing even for my own personal journey, because I want to enjoy things. I'm going to have a cookie when I want to have a cookie, but I also can't, eat the whole, bag of Oreos if I wanted to. So I think for me as a personal trainer, it's easier for me to see my clients from an outside perspective and say, hey, this is your all or nothing thinking. Like, let's take a peek at it. And here's how we can make small adjustments so that you can still enjoy things or do certain things without having to completely cut things out or completely swing the pendulum the other way to like unhealthy behaviors within exercise and fitness.
What? There's an unhealthy approach to fitness? Surely people don't. I think it's super cute because I've also struggled with my journey in alcohol over time. I think there's some connections between those of us that have those things and kind of some of that addictive personalities,
Mhm.
tendencies. And I love when people are like, they over exercise and overrun and over fitness, that they get to feel so good about it. It's such a pretty addiction to have, that we're over and we're bearing our pain in, over working out. How it sounded like one of the first steps is mindset.
Yes, it's absolutely mindset. And that's something where, personal trainers, a lot of time people come to us and they're like, all right, tell me how many sets and reps to do. And, tell me how to eat better. Tell me, all these things. Those are I'll say, maybe it might sound bad, but those are the easier things to take care of, right? Your mindset is the hardest thing for you to change, which comes over time, right? It's like a muscle. The more you flex your positive mindset, I mean, I'm in therapy, I'm still working on it, right? We're all working on changing our mindset so that we can live happier and healthier with ourselves, because that's what we have to do. So changing people's mindset is very complicated unless you can explain it in a way that resonates with them, right? So that might or might not be different between neurotypicals and people who are neurodivergent. So it's finding what really resonates with people, what's at their core, what are their deep desires for themselves, and how can you help them get there without shame, right? There are, I think, within the fitness industry, a lot of shame has come over the years for a lot of people. And it's just something that it takes time to undo that, but it is possible. And I think it just takes a lot of time, and it takes the right person to sit with you and unravel, like a therapist, unravel all of those unhealthy behaviors that you might have built over time.
Right. I think about, for me, some of the fitness struggles I have had has been around motivation, and not sometimes it's lack of motivation. Sometimes it's the wrong motivation, and trying to connect in with what is a positive, air quotes, healthy motivation to have. I've struggled just kind of throughout my life, like most women in our culture and society, with body image issues. And so then I want to actively reject that and be like, no, I would like to accept my body as it is in its form right now. So then I don't need to go to the gym. I don't need to be active, and I don't need to do anything at all because I accept my body. And it's like, okay, well, hold on. I also really like the feeling of movement, and I really like the feeling of, after I've been on a long bike ride, and that, like, I don't know, just the feeling I have afterwards, both of accomplishment and physically in my body, it feels good. I don't like running as much as I like biking. And so I was like, running to me, I don't know. This just does not connect with me mentally, but I really love the feeling of a bike ride. And so even that, where it's like, okay, well, I don't have to run then. I could bike. And I'm sure that there are different muscles and things that I'm not working out as much because I'm biking instead of running. But I have connected more personally and more passion behind biking. And so that has been my, like, exercise cardio of choice, so to speak. Um, I don't know. What are your thoughts on just, like, bad motivations? Like, is it okay to start with your bad motivation of, fine, I want to be skinnier, and then maybe let's graduate that over time, that also you are okay as you are, and also maybe you want to lose some weight so you don't have as much weight and pressure on your knees and your joints. I don't know. I don't know what to do with this. I'm in the messy middle on it.
I think that you bring up a really good point, and a lot of people do start for aesthetic reasons, right? Aesthetics,
Mhm.
everybody wants to look a certain way. The way that I try to help people kind of refocus is like, okay, let's look. What's your blood pressure? What's your cholesterol? Let's look at the internal numbers. And if over time, so we call them non-scale victories, right? So
Mhm.
or non-scale wins. So the scale might not change day to day, but that doesn't mean that what's inside of your body is changing. Even with body composition, the number on the scale does not always reflect what's happening on the inside. I can weigh the same amount, and one, I can have, maybe 40% body fat, but at the same weight, I can also be 20% body fat. I just have more muscle, right? So it's going to look differently, which is why we focus a lot of times on how's your body feeling? Do you have more energy? Are you getting better sleep? Are you feeling like it's easier for you to run around with your kids, as opposed to the number on the scale? Because that is, I think, really what brings a lot of the like shame around like
Mhm.
exercise and things like that. And I want to touch on one other thing that you mentioned. So, and maybe this is something that that you can relate to, if like with ADHD, but finding that thing that's going to give you that dopamine hit, right? So finding the thing that gives you that spark that says, oh, I really enjoyed that, I want to do it again. Because with ADHD, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we're constantly searching out those things that are giving us
Mhm.
that dopamine hit, whether it's accomplishing a task or finding something else to do that's going to give us that dopamine hit. So if you have ADHD or if you're neurodivergent, finding that thing that you really enjoy doing that's going to make you feel really good at the end of it is so important. That's why not everyone needs to run, because not everyone enjoys running. And if you hate it, you're not going to stick with it, right? We want to
Mm-hmm.
find that thing that you really enjoy that you're going to stick with.
Right, right.
I love that because both Sammy and I share our disdain for running, and yet both of us have stories of like, remember that one time when we were crazy stressed out and we were compelled to run.
Mm.
And I remember for me, the kids were young and there was a whole lot of business thing. And they were like, "Where are you going, Mom?" I'm like, "I'm going for a run." And they're like, "What is happening?" And recently, Sammy had that. She goes, "Mom, I don't know what happened, but I mean, I had to, like, I had to run."
Yeah, it was
And
in this past December, and I remember even it was like, I need to go for a run I need to push my heart to its absolute max capacity and then try to like hold it there for like 10 seconds. It was this weird, like, no, 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 actually don't know that I can accomplish this as well just running outside. I was like, I went and I got a free trial at a gym and I got on the treadmill and I like went crazy. The At first I had like all my numbers in front of me and then I went and like pulled the little workout towel over the numbers because I was like, what do you mean 12 miles push my heart to its limit? I should be running faster than I don't know. I don't run. Of course, I don't know what's a good number, what's a bad number. I just know like it was like, no, stop looking at whatever is there and I'm just going to tune in to like pushing my breath and my heart to its absolute max. And I was crazy stressed out and it was so much was getting bottled up and internalized and it was like you need this physical release, like very deeply physical. And it's not that I couldn't have done it on a bike, it's that it is harder for me to get to that max capacity feeling on a bike.
Mhm.
It takes me going a lot faster. It then suddenly feels a little bit more dangerous where I'm like, "Oh no, you're like we actually are going like 20, 30 miles an hour if I'm pedaling to this level." Like,
Mhm.
oh, suddenly like I don't know. I need to push my heart to its max, but the risk of like, wow, you got into a bike accident and hit a rock and flew off at 30 miles an hour, that
I
risk is
suddenly
higher.
I suddenly understand spin classes now. I've never understood spin
Yeah.
Yes.
classes, but now I'm like, "Oh, okay, this must be why people do spin classes, is that you can actually do those things." What I think is interesting is that in both scenarios, we didn't need motivation.
Mhm.
We were compelled to do it like that. And so I think that it was that listening to what's going on in our body. I also want to touch on the idea of like our nervous system response. And, we're all going throughout the day and should be at homeostasis, but then we're sitting in a meeting and Cliff, recently, Cliff really been driving me crazy in these meetings and he activates me. So I want to punch him in the face or the throat, whatever. Not appropriate, very unprofessional of me. And that energy is still coursing in my body. And so I think that there is, whether it is biking, for me, that's dancing really hard, like coming
Mhm.
home and just like uh head banging and throwing my body all around the living room, that sort of thing. But really the movement that we can do to kind of release that.
Right. There
Yeah.
is there is a correlation. I did it for my one of my projects, my final project in college. I did the correlation between anxiety and that fight or flight feeling that you get, and then doing cardio and how it essentially like pushes your body into that flight. So you're utilizing the hormones that your body is producing, doing absolutely nothing, right? Like so I have anxiety, so I get fight or flight if I have to make a decision about who to call for something, right? And which is unhealthy, and we need to learn how to manage that in other ways to cope with it. But um, one of the ways that I found, which is why I did this project, was by running, I could get that feeling to go away. Mostly because when you're in that fight or flight, all of those hormones are ready to be used to do some kind of action. So if you do that kind of action, obviously we're not fighting anybody. We're doing more of like the flight, like by
Mhm.
running, by doing cardio, you're utilizing those hormones for what they're made for, and then kind of releasing and regulating your nervous system again.
Oh, I like that a lot. I'd love to shift gears a moment because we're talking a lot about, what's in our own body and Angela and I's experience with fitness. I think, maybe I'm not speaking too out of turn. Neither you or I, Angela, have like a great fitness routine or way of implementing. Like, I don't know, like the idea of getting a personal trainer to me, I'm like, oh, that means I have to go to the gym and it's gonna be like a chore. And I just don't like it. I I don't know if that's the human in me, the ADHD in me, whatever it is. Abby, do you have thoughts or like encouragement for maybe those of us who know movement and fitness and things like that should be more a part of our life, but just like, ugh, I don't know that I want to. I don't know.
100%. I think that's very normal.
Hmm.
And I always encourage people to find something that you are going to do and that you're going to stick with, right? So, for example, I have a friend and she does Pilates on YouTube in her home. She'll do
Hmm.
Pilates videos and that's what she enjoys. She enjoys how it makes her body feel. She enjoys, the feeling after. She's feeling stronger. She's feeling good about her body. That's not going to the gym and lifting heavy weights. However, you're still getting a benefit. There's still resistance training. You're still moving your body. I think there are a lot of different options, right? So something that I do that works well with a lot of my clients is, so I'm their personal trainer, but I don't actually see them in person. I
Hmm.
write out their program for them. I program what their body, can do, what it needs, and I send it to them and they can take it. They can do it at home, they can do it at the gym, they can do it on their time whenever it works with their schedule. And then they just check in with me, afterwards or the next day and say, hey, this is how the workout went, this is how I felt. So there are ways to get around that, like, oh, I don't want to go to a gym and work with a personal trainer.
Hmm.
Something that I'm working on right now that I'm especially really getting into the neurodivergent and fitness specialty, is there are a lot of like sensory things that people with ADHD or autism might not like when you go to a gym. So,
Hmm.
whether it's adding, bringing your noise canceling headphones or wearing clothes that don't make you feel uncomfortable, or finding a place in the gym. Some gyms have like little quiet areas, or the group exercise room. If nobody's using it, you can go in. The lights are usually dimmer at that time, or you can turn them on, but you can be by yourself. The music's not as loud. There's not people throwing weights everywhere, the crashing of weights, the sound of the fans, the bright lights. It's a lot, right? And
Hmm.
that's totally not for everybody. So it's finding ways around those sensory, those things that might be giving you, poor sensations, or um, ways that you just might not enjoy your time there or wherever you are.
Oh, I like that. The clothes is a big thing for me that I had to like actually get clothes that I wanted to wear while I was sweating. It was a
Hmm.
weird, like, no, no, I can't just wear like a regular t-shirt and then I get sweaty and then I'm like, and now I'm done. We can't work out
Yep.
anymore. The clothes are touching my body. I know they were touching my body before, but they're touching my body too much now. And I'm out. Let's
Yeah.
leave. So I
I
like that.
hope that there are people that are listening to this that are like, oh my gosh, I thought it was just me. Because I think that we go, ooh, I just don't like going to the gym. And we think it's we don't like exercise. When in fact, hopefully, if this has been your thing, that is a lot. When you sat there, my heart started racing a little bit when you're like, and the lights and the noise and
Hmm.
the this and the that and the other. I actually have a friend who we were talking about working out, and he was saying he doesn't like this one gym in our community because it is like big into no grunting, no throwing weights. It's supposed to be this really safe and approachable gym. And he said, I go to this gym that is like practically tires. It's like a boxing gym. And I'm like, really? Why do you like it? He goes, I just want to go and feel like a man. I want to
Mm.
grunt it out. There's so much of the world that I need to not be that way. And I need to let those masculine urges out. The like, I want to throw stuff and I want to like pick up a really heavy tire and flip it. And he goes, I love the feelings. And so what we were talking about, of like the like getting the dopamine hits for him, it is that like I want to feel like a he-man, and I'm not trying to make anybody else feel uncomfortable.
Hmm.
I don't want to express this toxic I don't want to express toxic masculinity anywhere else in my life, but that feeling is also coursing in me and I want to release that. And so I want to be like cognizant of the idea of like everybody needs a little something different. And he and I laughed about Because I was like, well, what recommendations do you have for weightlifting? He goes, you should not listen to me. I am a 30-something man who loves lifting weights. I've been lifting weights for 15 years. You should listen to a 50-something-year-old woman who is on a journey and is going to give you what you need, which I also loved that. So anyway, I think that the permission to find what you need.
And I think that's so valid because there are so many options now for everyone, right? Whether you want to go to, like a man gym like that, or if you're a Pilates girly and you want to go and do Pilates on a reformer with other Pilates girlies,
Oh
or
my
if
gosh, I did that once. It was
Oh my
such an
gosh.
experience. I was like, what have I walked into? Holy cow. And the different color. Anyway, it was like a girls' night. And I was like, this was a very intense girls' night.
And some girls live for that, right? Like that's
Yes.
totally their space. And that's what's great about, I think, where we are now within the fitness industry. There are a lot of toxic things that I bring up all the time, but there are also a lot of positives. There's something for everyone. And if none of those things work, you have the availability to go on YouTube and find something that you can do at home by yourself for free, right? So there's so many options.
Oh yeah, I love doing some at-home yoga, especially I'll get to the end of the night and you can be like, yoga for stressful day, yoga for my elbow that hurts. Like, I don't know, you could literally search anything and you can find a yoga for it. I really like that. Abby, what is your work? What are you looking forward to? I know you've told us a little bit, you got a new certification recently. How do you hope that your work is gonna continue to evolve with a little bit of your shift in direction?
Yeah, so my newest certification, it's an autism exercise specialist certificate. So it opens up some doors to potentially work with more of the neurodivergent community in different ways, right? So what I'm hoping for now is to find more. So I live in like I said, Clearwater, Florida, so Pinellas County. I'm really looking for those in-person, groups of neurodivergent individuals who need a little bit more physical support outside of physical therapy, occupational therapy, something that's going to bring in exercise and make it fun and make it accessible, while still working along those other paraprofessionals, and just have a little network of all of us that can work and support each other and support the neurodivergent community. Again, whether that's autism, whether that's ADHD, mood disorders, OCD. I mean, it's a whole, like you said, Angela, it's a whole spectrum. So it can vary. It doesn't need to necessarily just be autism. So I'm open to working with, everyone. And as a personal trainer, I can still absolutely work with the general population, but finding my passion, finding my niche in this neurodivergent community is really what I'm hoping for.
Oh, I love that. I think it's going to be, you can tell that you light up more even just talking about this a little bit. It's not that you weren't lighting up before, but you're like, there's something about this that like,
yeah,
really feel magnetized to.
Yeah, after I did the continuing education credits that got me this certificate, I'm like, oh my God, I have so many ideas. Like there's so much that this community can benefit from moving, from exercising. It actually helps. It helps a lot. It helps with sensory processing. It helps with regulating your body. So there's a lot that can be super beneficial about it. Obviously moving, then it can help all of your your weight, your internal numbers, all of those things. So really excited about it.
I love it. That's so exciting. If you wanted to leave our listeners with just one piece of encouragement or advice, what would you want to say to them?
That's such a good question. The last time I was asked this on a podcast, I totally said more than one thing. And she was like, wow, that was a lot.
You can say as many things as you want. I'll allow it.
I think the biggest thing that I always try to remind people is that finding the one thing that you can continue, which I know I've mentioned, I mentioned earlier in this episode, finding the one thing that you can continue for a lifetime. And similar to what you said, like progress over perfection, right? It doesn't need to be perfect. You can give yourself grace. If you decide, I want to drink 4 glasses of water a day, and that's the healthy thing that you want to focus on, and you only drink 2 glasses in a day, hey, that's more than 0. Right? And the next day is a new day where you can maybe drink 3 and then eventually get to 4. And then once you continuously drink 4, maybe you want to increase your goal. So it's just about finding the one thing that's going to stick for you, that is going to help put you on a healthier and happier habit to sustain your life.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for joining us today for this conversation about fitness and ADHD and neurodivergence, and also all sorts of things. How are we regulating our nervous system and everything else? This has been really, really lovely. Glad to have you on.
Thank you for having me. It's been a joy to catch up.
Yes, I love it. Thank you guys all for listening. And until next time, we hope you guys go be freaking awesome.